Hey guys, finding the perfect gift for the food lover in your life is easy, thanks to Goldbelly. Goldbelly ships America's most iconic foods, straight from world-famous restaurants right to your door. So if you want to treat someone to Joe's Stone Crab from Miami, Franklin Barbecue from Texas, or desserts from famous foodies like Ina Garten or Martha Stewart, Goldbelly has you covered. Just go to goldbelly.com and for a limited time, get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT. That's promo code GIFT.
Flowers die in 3 days. Matching underwear from MeUndies? That's a gift that lasts. MeUndies creates matching prints for couples and friends. Same adorable designs and different cuts for each of you. All made from their signature ultra-modal fabric that feels impossibly soft. With 30 million pairs sold and 90,000 five-star reviews, MeUndies matching prints are the perfect gift. Valentine's Day is February 14th, so don't wait. Get exclusive deals up to 50% off at MeUndies.com/comfort, code COMFORT. That's MeUndies.com/comfort, code COMFORT.
Welcome back to the Center in the City podcast, a space to pause, breathe, and come back to yourself, even in the middle of a full and busy life. I'm your host, Wade Brill, and in each episode, we explore mindfulness for real life, simple practices, reflections, tools to help you feel grounded, present, and connected to what matters most to you. So let's settle in and let's get centered. Welcome back to the Center in the City podcast. I'm your host, Wade Brill, and I am so glad you are here. In today's solo episode, we're exploring this theme around social anxiety. And this is a topic all of us deal with on some level, in some shape or form, because we're human. We're human and we're social creatures. And we navigate life bumping into one another and creating stories in our mind about what's happening. So today on the pod, we're going to talk about what is social anxiety, what's happening, and how can we use some research-backed strategies on how to calm our nervous systems, how to reduce some of the overthinking that happens, and most importantly, how to build confidence from the inside out to stay connected with one another, to stay integrated into social situations instead of isolating and creating more loneliness and disconnection. I would say that social anxiety is one of the top forms of anxiety I see with my clients. A lot happens around navigating uncertainty, but a big portion of people's anxiety stems from social anxiety. What are people thinking about me? How am I showing up? Am I safe? Am I looking good? Do I sound good? Am I going to be accepted? I know you will leave today with some helpful awareness. You know, we always love to strengthen your mindfulness muscles here on the Center in the City podcast. So strengthening your own awareness of your relationship to social anxiety, you'll leave with actionable tools that you can integrate in your life starting right away. So wherever you are listening, let's settle in and let's get centered. Have you ever gone to a party or maybe hopped off of a work call and started to replay a conversation in your head? Like, oh my God, did I really say that? Or, oh my God, it must have come off like this. Or they must think I'm blank. Or they might think I'm unprofessional. Or do they see that I'm not really who I say I am? Do they think I'm stupid? Oops, was I not supposed to bring up that comment or make that comment or observation? If you've experienced any of these flavors of internal dialogue, know that you are not alone, and this is part of our human social anxiety flare-ups happening. Or maybe you're somebody who walks into a room full of people, maybe a networking event, maybe a party, maybe a co-working gathering, and your heart starts to race. Maybe your palms get a little sweaty. Maybe your face starts to blush. And you start to feel a little nervous about being in a social setting. Or maybe you've recently done this where you've avoided saying yes to plans, not because you're too busy or because you don't have energy or capacity, but because there's a big part of you that doesn't want to be around people because of this fear of this social anxiety that spirals up. So what is social anxiety? Social anxiety is rooted in the body's threat detective system. Your brain and your body are constantly scanning the environment for what's wrong, where's their safety, who is safe, because the brain and the body's job is safety. It's to keep you alive. And social situations, more strongly for some people than others, maybe because of conditioning from when they were younger, or maybe traumatic, lowercase or big T traumas happen to people when they were younger. The idea of being in social situations comes off as a perceived threat, or maybe the mind is trying to scan the environment for rejection, or where is there going to be judgment or embarrassment, because those are all forms of perceived threat and danger to the human body. So when we maybe see somebody at a cocktail event look at us weird, or maybe check their phone and seem disinterested in what we have to say, or a coworker of ours on a call makes some sort of snarky comment, the amygdala, the part of our brain, goes off and it says, warning, warning, right? It activates a threat. And that sends all of the bodies of our fight, flight, freeze nervous system into action. And so we start to maybe have a racing heart, or sweaty palms, or our mind goes blank, or our eyesight gets really narrow. And that's just the nervous system doing its job to protect you because it sees a perceived threat. Then what starts to happen is we as humans can feel this body responding in a way, and we then start to create a story about the body responding in this threat detective way as, oh my God, something's wrong with me, or why am I getting such an intense heart racing feeling, or why are my palms sweaty, or why is my face turning red? Something's wrong with me. So the first step in being with our social anxiety in a more helpful way is to, one, just normalize it, like it is normal. And when your body's responding in those ways, even if you don't like it, even if it's unpleasant, we want to take a moment to appreciate it, because it is doing its job. And that means it is online, it is functioning, it is trying to protect us. So our job now is to help our body, one, come back to a parasympathetic state, come back to a place where we feel rested, where our body's functioning normally, where we can feel calm, present, connected. And then secondly, learn how to work with our thoughts in a more helpful way so that our thoughts aren't spiraling up the activation that our body is experiencing. So instead, we're learning how to regulate our nervous system, and we're learning how to work with our thoughts so that it helps calm down our body as well. Over time, the more we can practice these helpful responses, the more we're reprogramming our nervous system and our mind to see these situations not as threats necessarily, but as places and interactions that we can handle, that we can approach, that we can be in a relationship with in a more beneficial way. Let's start with regulating the body. When the body gets activated, there are so many different tools out there of how to regulate our nervous system. I'm going to share a few, some that work for me. If you have other ones, feel free to share them. You can send me a DM on Instagram at OneWade, sharing with me your favorite regulation tools. You can send me a message linked in the show notes. So a really helpful tool for me is to work with my breath. And breath doesn't work for everybody. So I always just like to say that out loud, that some of these tools might work for you and some won't. So it's about trial and error to explore what works for your body and brain. What we know about the nervous system is that exhaling longer than you're taking an inhale for helps the body come back to a more relaxed state. This is a mindful moment tip from my book, 100 Mindful Moments to Balance and Energize. And in the mindset section, the mindful moment tip is to just breathe. So when there are moments of panic or anxiety, come back to your breath. Breathe in for the count of 5 and out for the count of 7. to slow down your mind and your body. For me, counting my breath is a really helpful way to shift my attention to something else than my thought, as well as, again, I'm activating my nervous system so that it's able to know that it's safe, that it can come back to this grounded place of right here, right now. And having that exhale be longer than the inhale is the key to inviting that parasympathetic state to come back online. When you're in moments, acute moments of panic, or maybe you notice you're about to speak on a Zoom call or you're about to go into a meeting, can you take a moment to pause and do this breathing technique for maybe 3 to 5 rounds and just notice what starts to shift in your body. Nobody needs to know that you're doing this breathing exercise. You can do it quietly. You don't even have to pretend like you're in a yoga class and making your exhales, super loud. It can just be a silent inhaling, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a silent exhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you repeat. Let's travel back to the mind for a moment and let's think about, why do we overthink? Well, in psychology, there's a term called post-event processing that demonstrates that people repeat negative self-focused thinking after social situations. A lot of the time, we can also call this rumination. We reflect on perceived mistakes, we criticize our performance, we worry about other people's judgments, we start to reinforce negative self-talk or self-beliefs. So when we're in those ruminating patterns of, what did I do wrong? Or I can't believe I said that, or I'm so stupid, or always do this. When we're in that kind of dialogue with ourselves, we are in a place where we're deeply rooted on the I. We're monitoring ourselves. We're worrying about how we looked. We're judging our performance instead of putting our attention externally. So what's happening is we're going internally so much to an unskillful level where we're starting to kick up dust and start to perceive that everything around us is this threat, and that we're creating the story that we're not good enough and that something's wrong. So now, not only do we kind of get activated by external cues of social threat, but now we're internally threatening ourselves, which is a huge factor of just even creating more stress and overwhelm in our minds and bodies. So a tip here to navigate social anxiety is that when you are starting to recognize, again, strengthening our mindfulness muscles, noticing that you're in thought, can you be kind and curious as you notice you're in thought and recognize the tone of the thought, recognize the story that you're telling yourself. And if you're caught in this internal cycle of judgment, of critique, I welcome you to bring your attention externally. Bring it to something outside of you that builds connection. And connection is a huge part in helping us regulate ourselves. Direct your attention to somebody else. So maybe listening to somebody's story, listening to somebody's body language, listening to somebody's tone, or maybe you scan your environment and find something pleasant to rest your attention on. Maybe you ask the other person questions. So don't make it about you, but make it about them. Ask them questions like, what did you do this weekend? Or what are your favorite hobbies right now? Or what excites you the most right now? Maybe it could even be something so small like, what time is it? These are little helpful tweaks we can make in our behaviors and our actions that help us reframe what's happening in the mind and in the body. Speaking of reframing, let's talk about some cognitive behavioral coaching techniques we can use to help us reframe our thoughts. So a lot of the time we think that whatever we think, that whatever thoughts are popping up are fact. I know I can. It's a big practice. This is a huge reason that a mindfulness practice is so helpful because it slows us down enough to get curious about the thought and understand, is this thought truly true? Sometimes it's really hard to understand our own thoughts without working with somebody. So without working with a coach or a therapist, something that's going to help you challenge and reframe and reflect what they're hearing and what they see you thinking. But this is also a skill that you can start to build on your own the more that you can slow down and start to just notice and name the common thoughts that you're hearing, especially when it comes to social situations. So maybe you go to a birthday party and you start to spiral in all of these thoughts. And later, when you come home, you take a moment to grab your journal and you write down some of the thoughts that you noticed. Or maybe during the party, you went to the bathroom and you took out your note section of your phone and you just jotted down some of those thoughts like, oh, they think I'm awkward, or I sounded stupid, or I just embarrassed myself, right? So name the thought that's coming up. And then gently start to challenge it. Like, what's the evidence I have for this thought? Is there another possible thought that I could think that could be more helpful? For instance, we might read body language of them, grabbing their phone, the person we're talking to grabbing their phone and looking away. And we might read that as, oh, they think I'm boring or I'm awkward. Something's wrong with me. But maybe a new thought is, oh, they're distracted. They got an important text message. Maybe they actually enjoyed the conversation. Maybe they're feeling social anxiety too, right? We don't necessarily know what's going on in their brain, but let's make something up that's actually going to be helpful. A common root cause I see with social anxiety is that the person who's experiencing a lot of social anxiety, what's typically happening is that they're giving their power away. So for instance, they're letting the other people in the situation, whether it's a work call or the birthday party or the dinner party, they're letting them hold the weight of importance. They're letting the story in their mind that these other people think this other thing that I have no proof of, except for maybe some interpretations of a stare or body language or tone of voice or awkward silence. We take these signals in our environment and we make a story out of it, of what's happening in the other person's mind. And so then our attention is just wrapped up into what's happening in the other person's mind, instead of focusing on what we as the individual with social anxiety can actually control, which is how we're thinking and how we're feeling and where we're putting our focus. Just to be clear that when we're putting our attention back on the I, I'm not saying go back to the trapping ourselves in the internal story. I'm saying we get to challenge the internal story because that's actually the thing we can control. And we're not wasting energy trying to change or manipulate what other people may or may not be thinking or feeling. When we bring the attention back to ourselves, back to connecting to our own hearts, minds, and bodies, this can be where a self-compassion practice is very helpful. And when I say self-compassion practice, this is research coined by Dr. Kristen Neff. And her research highlights, I talk about this on the podcast all the time, how important self-compassion is because it lowers our anxiety, it builds more emotional resiliency, it improves our confidence, it reduces inflammation in our body. And being compassionate to ourselves is about bringing kindness to our own experience and also reminding ourselves that we're not alone, that there's a sense of common humanity, like there are other people out there in this world that also feel anxious and uncomfortable when it comes to social settings. Or there are also people who might show up looking really confident, but maybe in their mind, they're also having these kinds of thoughts. Just the other week, I was at a friend's dinner party and I was kind of in a low mood. I was feeling a little burnt out. And I started talking to somebody about marketing and he owns his own business. And we were talking about marketing and da-da-da. And I just really despise marketing. And I just felt so negative as I was talking about it. And when I went home later, I was like, oh, why did I say that? Or oh, I must have come off so negative. He probably thinks I'm like now blah, blah, blah. And I'm curious how this is going to affect, I just start to spiral. So it happens to us all. And then that moment where I started to recognize I was getting caught in this thought loop of reflecting the past, it's like, one, there's nothing I can do. The more I think about it, it's just going to stir up more dust and stress in my system. And two, it was like, okay, I get to take a moment and recognize like, ooh, there's an ouch here, Wade. You felt a little vulnerable and maybe exposed, and there's a fear of how you came off. And I tried to meet myself with some care. I said to myself, may I be kind and gentle to myself? And may I know that it's okay to come off in different ways. It's okay to have off days. I can't control how this person's going to think about me or perceive me. All I can do is take care of myself and realign with how I want to show up next time or how I want to be showing up in my life. So that moment of giving myself some love, some tender care was so healing to the spirals that started to form in the mind. And then I was able to move on. So facing social anxiety isn't something we have to power or push through or bully ourselves or say, suck it up. That doesn't typically do well for our minds, our bodies, our hearts. So self-compassion is a beautiful way to meet us, meet the anxiety, meet the fear, meet the unease so that we feel more resourced to keep trying, keep being a human in this world. Now, if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, hey, Wade, these all sound really great, but like I am more on the extreme spectrum of social anxiety to the point where I don't like to go out and I stay home alone and I say no to all of these events and I've just really started to isolate my life. I'd say to you, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're listening and learning about social anxiety and how to manage it on podcasts like this, and I'm sure so many other resources. I'd also welcome you to reach out to a skilled therapist, a coach who has the resources to support you here, and explore in how to hold your hand a little bit in what's called micro exposures to social settings so that you are slowly resourcing your system so that your system is slowly getting to realize that these types of interactions are safe and approachable, and the different thoughts, the different thinking traps that might or might not happen probably won't happen. So when I've worked with some clients on this in the past, sometimes it's practicing making eye contact with the barista when you go to get your cup of coffee, or saying hello, challenging yourself to say hello to one stranger on your commute to work, even if they don't respond back. Maybe it's to share one thought in a meeting. Or can you stay at that party for 10 minutes longer? I want you to know that when exposing yourself to social anxiety is about going slow to go fast. So micro steps to help you feel safe, to help rewire your brain, to help you build confidence so that you can keep taking action and keep strengthening this ability to be social and present. For everybody experiencing any flavor of social anxiety, it's really helpful to take a pause after a social experience, whether going to a dinner party or happy hour, is to pause after the event. Notice, is the brain ruminating? Post-event processing, right? My mind is going through the day. A lot of the times this happens for people as they lie down in bed, right? Because it's the first quiet moment of their day. And so the mind starts to process, starts to reflect on the day. So naming it, post-event processing, right? That's the thing that my brain is doing right now. And instead of getting trapped in the stories of what you did wrong or what stories you want to make up about yourself or what thoughts you think people had about you, redirect your attention to, what went well in that interaction? What did I learn? What am I proud of? And make sure to take that pause post-social action and celebrate your body and your brain for showing up, for exposing yourselves to those types of interactions. And know that the more you do it intentionally and consciously, the more you get to rewire your brain so that you can feel more comfortable. You might not ever be the most social person in the world. Maybe you might. But it's just knowing that this is a skill you get to build. And this is a great opportunity as you slow down to recognize the kind of tone and word choices you use of how you talk to yourself. And this is so much of what I help with my clients, because what we really want to do is talk to ourselves with kindness, with care, not criticism, not judgment. That only shuts us down. That keeps us small. Instead, we really want to open ourselves up to bigger possibilities of our fullness, of our wholeness, to know that we're whole and complete, that we don't need to be poked and prodded with all of these criticisms and judgments. So as you let the words of this episode settle in your mind, your heart, your body, I would love to hear what's resonating for you. Where do you feel social anxiety takes its shape or form in your life? And based on what you learned today, what are you most excited to practice, to integrate? Maybe it's a breathing technique. Maybe it's just naming post-event processing. Maybe it's challenging your thoughts with kindness. Maybe it's a self-compassion practice. Maybe it's just reminding yourself that, you know what, we all do this. We all have some sort of internal dialogue of, am I showing up in relationship to people? How am I showing up? Is it good enough? Do I look awkward? Am I going to fit in? Because we so deeply want to be accepted. So wherever you are in your journey, know that you're not alone. I'm here supporting and rooting you on. And if you ever want to go deeper into this topic, feel free to reach out to see if coaching together is a right fit for what you're wanting to work on in your life. Thanks for being here and letting me into your ears, your heart, your mind. Please take a moment to rate and review this podcast. Maybe even share it with somebody in your world that you know would benefit. And until next time, stay centered.